What's up, vinyl community? It's Jason coming at you from the Jazz Basement. Hope you're doing well tonight. It's the start of summer. It was a beautiful day in Washington, D.C., both in terms of the weather, but also in terms of some recent vinyl finds. Um, been busy, all good though. Been seeing some live jazz, which is great. Saw Melissa Aldana a few weeks ago in D.C. at a small jazz club, Blues Alley, which was phenomenal. I saw Herbie Hancock Friday night at the Kennedy Center here in D.C. And then this weekend, HR Records hosted a music fair on Saturday, featuring Doug Karn, featuring Plunky and the Oneness of Juju, among other local acts. So just an absolutely music packed couple of weeks, which is great. A couple other things. Two quick shout outs. So I'd like to shout out Logan. Logan was at the HR Records music events, Home Rule Music Festival. All I heard was Jason, the Jazz Basement. And I was like, what's going on? Anyway, got to meet him. He was in town. He saw Herbie Hancock as well. So, Logan, thanks for saying hi, and hopefully see you in DC again soon. And second, I'd like to give a shout out to my longtime best friend, Brian, who begged me today. He texted me. He's like, please do a video. I'm so bored. Brian is at home recovering from a surgery from last week. So uh, everyone give Brian some well wishes. He's on the mend, which is great. And hopefully this video put a smile on his face. So late last night, I get a text from Charvis, the proprietor at HR. He said, "You're not going to believe the collection that I just got in. This is like 11:45 p.m. Um, he's like, you need to swing by in the morning and check some of this out. It's pretty crazy." So whenever he's pretty excited, I get pretty excited. So rolled over to HR this morning, took a look through, and did some damage. So it's all good. First off, the first record I want to share with you is not a jazz record, but a record that I really enjoy by an artist that I really enjoy as well. And it's a blues record. And one of the things I found when I look at my musical tastes, it all comes back to the blues, right? Whether it's hard bop, heavily influenced by the blues. If I look at some of the classic rock that I enjoy, Led Zeppelin, for example, heavily influenced by the blues, borrowed a lot of things from the blues as well. Anyway, so without further ado, was flipping through this collection, found this, couldn't believe it. You pretty much never find these in clean condition. Um, it's Howlin' Wolf, Moanin' at the Moonlight. This is an original press. It's on Chess Records, as you can see, pretty clean, pretty nice. But the disc itself is just off the charts. Very hard to find these old chests in great shape, and there is not a scratch on this. Maybe a hairline, but original press, I think from 1959. So really enjoy it. I mean, it's a different experience listening to blues. This is you can find a reissue of this. I highly recommend it. It's probably one of the top 3 or 5 blues albums. If you had to own one, you could make an argument that this could be one of them. So moving on. A couple of months ago, HR had a haul that came in a trash bag, and I talked about this a couple of videos ago. That in that trash bag was Quiet Kenny, among others, and I brought those home, cleaned it through my ultrasonic cleaner, and gave it back to the shop. And one record that I really, really enjoyed, I spun, but it skipped, and it broke my heart, so I didn't buy it. I was like, man, I've got to do whatever I can to find one of these. Was this one, and I found it today in the collection, which is Benny Golson, Groovin with Golson. This is on New Jazz, super clean, as you can see. Cost me a little bit more than $4.98. And then the wax, beautiful New Jazz label, deep groove on both sides. What is wonderful about this collection is that all of these records I'm about to show you are in unbelievable shape. Um, it's almost like they haven't been played in 50 years, and some of them they probably have not been played in 50 years or more. But anyway, Groovin with Golson, just a super fun record. Really enjoy it. Benny Golson doesn't get the accolades that he should. Um, he's he was a good player. His fingerprints are all over a lot of the records that you're probably used to listening. Whether that's Art Blakey Moanin, um, some of the earlier Lee Morgan stuff. He did a lot of work with Art Farmer. Uh, his compositions are great, and his playing is very good as well. So, highly recommend this album in particular. Analog Productions just put out a reissue within the last couple of months. I don't know if it's sold out or not, but it's worth checking out. Definitely worth the price of admission. Next up, I'm a sucker for jazz guitar, as you know. I love Grant Green. I've gotten a lot of his stuff in the last 12 months. More recently, I haven't shared all these with you, but more recently I've really upped my game with Kenny Burrell, and I upped it again today. So, this is an upgrade copy for me. This is introducing Kenny Burrell, Blue Note 1523. Great album. His first output on Blue Note, and just again, got to look at this. So 767. Let's see if I can get a good 767 Lexington. As you can see, it is immaculate shape. It's very heavy too. So a lot of these Lexington copies actually have, they're actually weigh a lot. This one weighs about the same as two normal records. I mean, they really just, I mean, oil wasn't $120 a barrel back then. So producing vinyl, they really took care. Kenny Burrell, they did a tone poet of this a couple of years ago. It's actually pretty hard to find, but it's findable. He's right there with Grant Green. A little bit different feel. I think Kenny Burrell's a little edgier in some ways. Grant Green's a little bit more mellow, then got a little funkier later on. Obviously, Kenny Burrell, Midnight Blue, well, it was probably his most famous album, I think was the album that he liked the least, which is, not uncommon, I guess. Anyway, this is a phenomenal album. It's just a beautiful listen, plays beautifully as well. Next up, now we get to what I would consider to be holy grails. Now, grails get thrown around a lot in the vinyl community, and it's you're really an individual. Right, a $20 record might be a grail for someone. For someone else, a grail might be a $5,000 record. But with respect to jazz, I think the next couple that I'm going to show you would be considered, at least two of them would be considered holy grails by most collectors, and the other two are no slouches either. So, first up, Hank Mobley with Donald Byrd, Lee Morgan, Blue Note 1540, framed cover, again in really great shape. 767 Lexington on the back cover. That's a no-lose lineup. So Donald Byrd, Lee Morgan on the trumpets, Hank Mobley on the tenor, Horace Silver on piano, Paul Chambers on bass, and Charlie Persip on the drums. I'm not familiar with Charlie Persip. So this is the one I haven't spun yet, so I don't have an informed view on it. But again, Mobley, Byrd, Lee Morgan, kind of hard to make a bad record. And then this is just unbelievably thick. So again, original mono, deep groove, Lexington Avenue on both sides, super clean. And this weighs even more than the Kenny Burrell. This is probably the thickest record, the one with the most weight that I own at the moment. Pretty killer. Have not spun it yet. but I will tonight. Okay, next three. Still pinching myself for some of these. All right, next one. Curtis Fuller, The Opener. Pretty tough to find. Blue Note 1567. Curtis Fuller on trombone, Hank Mobley on tenor, Bobby Timmons piano, Paul Chambers on bass, and Art Taylor on the sticks. Again, guys, incredibly clean. This is a great album. I got introduced, and many of you, pretty much all of you have heard Curtis Fuller before. He's on Blue Train, John Coltrane Blue Train. He plays the trombone. Trombone doesn't get a lot of love for whatever reason. It's kind of a funny instrument, but I picked up Soul Trombone, which is on Impulse, by Curtis Fuller earlier this year. That's a great session, and I had my eyes out on this one. I never thought I'd get it. It's very tough to find, in at least in my experience, but just a fun instrument. The session itself is very good. Do I like Soul Trombone better? That's a tough call. I don't know is the short answer. But anyway, same sort of thing here. Curtis Fuller. Again, beautiful shape. No scratches, no hairlines. It's crazy. Deep Groove, 47 West 63rd, no ink, no registered trademark. So 1957, roughly, that one came out. All right, the next two are Bonafide Holy Grails. This next one I never thought I would see or have in my collection. The one after that, I never thought I would own, although I have seen it before, and we'll get to that in a minute. But the one that I was really excited about the most was this, Cliffcraft by Cliff Jordan. Blue Note 1582. This is very hard to find. This is an original press. It's 1958, I believe. It was next released or reissued in Japan in like 1984 or something like that. So there's no Liberty Press. It's just an original press and then a Japanese press. Now, I just listened to this album. What makes this album great? Couple of things. One, the lineup is stellar. So you have Cliff Jordan on the tenor sax. You've got Art Farmer on trumpet, Sonny Clark on the keys, George Tucker on the bass, and Louis Hayes on the drums. A couple of things. One, I would say this is one of the best sounding Blue Notes that I've heard, certainly in my collection. The fidelity is amazing. Great separation. The recording itself is, it's very 3D. You can hear it even though it's in mono. Really focused picture and just really well recorded. On top of that, from a music perspective, it's sort of more medium tempo, hard bop. It's a very easy listen. It's a very enjoyable listen. Everyone has space. And I love records where you have a mix of the group together, but then also everyone in the group has space. So Sonny Clark has some really beautiful solos. George Tucker has some nice solos. Obviously, Cliff Jordan, Art Farmer, with their horns, have some space as well. This has got to be a tone poet. This is right up the alley, where it's a little bit off the beaten path. Collectors know about it. Incredibly hard to find. But check that out. I mean, how beautiful is that? Deep Groove, Blue Note, 1582, Cliffcraft. Clifford Jordan's also pretty famous for an album on Strata East, Glass Bead Games. That's the Clifford Jordan Quartet. Originals of that are pretty hard to find. Not as hard as this, but I have a reissue of that. Okay, last up. the piece de resistance, Revenge, the Revenge of Kenny. I didn't see this one in the flip through video, but if you recall a couple of months ago, in that trash bag was a Quiet Kenny. And I took it home here to the Jazz Basement. I cleaned it up lovingly. I spun it. I didn't record it or anything like that. And was trying to buy it. And HR's like, "Oh, someone's spoken for it. They've wanted it. You're second in line." I said, "Okay." They called me back later that night and said the guy passed on it. He was waffling. I mean, this is not a cheap record. And I was putting my son down to sleep. I said, "Okay, no problem. Like, just, can I get back to you? And I got to give him a bath and put him down. Can I get back to you in like 30, 40 minutes? I said, "Sure, no problem." 30, 40 minutes roll by. I get back to him and said, "Oh, the guy, the individual called back and is, put a down payment on Quiet Kenny. He's coming up this weekend to grab it or whatever." Oh. But I didn't worry about it because I have the Craft RSD release, which sounds great. And I was like, you know what? At least I had my fingers on it. At least it was on the platter. And I was at peace that I would never own an original Quiet Kenny. But I do now. And here we go. So Quiet Kenny, Kenny Dorham, original on New Jazz, 8225. Very clean on the cover, nice and flat. Spine looks good, but more importantly, what about the wax? The wax is incredible. So that beautiful New Jazz label, as you can see, that is a very clean copy. Again, this collection they have 300, 400 records, all in immaculate shape. And what's crazy is there was a little bit of Miles Davis. There was no Coltrane, no Blakey, none of like the stuff that you would expect. But they had a ton of, the sweet spot was sort of 1956 to 1960. And that's some of the hardest stuff to find in general. And then to find it in these conditions, is just off the charts. Quiet Kenny, nothing really needs to be said. It's an unbelievable album. The one that HR had a couple of months ago, I would say, was Strong VG. Played with some crackle. Music still came through just fine. This is definitely a sonic upgrade. This is excellent. VG++. Actually, all of these are, except for Howlin Wolf. That's more kind of VG+. But the rest of these are just unbelievable. I mean, there's no pops, there's no ticks, there's no surface noise really to speak of, an occasional crackle. So just really excited to have these. I'm pinching myself. I mean, any one of those, Quiet Kenny, Cliff Craft, the opener, any Hank Mobley, any 1500 Hank Mobley, and some of the 4000 or 4100 series would just be an amazing day. But to be able to find all of these in the flesh, in great shape, supporting a store that does so much for the community. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? If you really wanted, you could go on eBay or you can go on Discogs, but that's not, for me, that's not what it's about. It's about the thrill of the hunt, making connections. I've met so many wonderful people in the vinyl community, and that's what it's all about. So hope you enjoyed this video. I have more. This is just the heavy stuff. But I've got probably another 3 or 4 videos of stuff that I need to shoot. So including some more that I got today, that again are really great. So stay tuned, enjoy. To all the fathers out there, happy Father's Day, a couple of days in advance. Hope you enjoy it. I know I will. It's being a dad is amazing. So with that, I'll sign off. So have a good night. Thanks for watching. And until next time, take it easy.